Hello and welcome back to RamsTalkPodcast. Well, 1-1 draws seem to be the way that Derby County seem to be doing the last few games. It's another one yesterday, and we're going to discuss it. We seem a little bit depleted here at Rams Talk, but we're going to get through it anyway. We've got last-minute substitutions bailing Derby County out, and we've got one here. I've got Jack Doherty talking it through with me and Vic. How are you, Jack?
Yeah, good, mate. Just woke up from the whole snooze fest.
It was a very unique game yesterday. We'll go talk
Bizarre.
about it in a little bit more depth. It was. And we've also got Vic Singh, ever present in Rams Talk podcasts. How are you, Vic?
Yeah, not too bad. Like Jack, I think we finally woke up from the snooze fest that was yesterday, but looking forward to talking about it in a bit more depth with you guys.
Yes, and we did talk about it, me and Jack, briefly before we went live. It was a very unique game for everyone who was in attendance and watched or even listened. A 1-1 draw against a very unique Hull side, a very unique style of play, Jack. I mean, we were kind of briefed on it prior to the game about how they were going to play. Very kamikaze in fans from their side, and I think that we really saw that in the style of play they like to do. I mean, at one point, we had 10 men within our own half, goalkeeper on the halfway line, overlapping centre halves, left, right and centre. But we managed to come away with a 1-1 draw. I mean, what did you make about of their style of play yesterday?
Just madness, like just complete and utter chaos. It reminded me more of a basketball game than a football game at times. The way players were just, I think, like there was a period in the first half where Curtis Nelson was on the right wing and Kenzo was at centre back, and it was just absolute madness. I was just thinking, what are we watching here? But to be fair, to get a result, albeit a point against the very, unique side who could possibly make the top six, as Paul Warne alluded to, is probably a good point in the end of it all.
Yeah, I think when we went into it, it's a very highly contested game. We're very similar within the league standings, and Vic, Hull, as well as scoring, also very prone at the back, and we did cause them a few issues. Obviously, we sat there and watched the game together yesterday, and we were talking about how many times we punished them down the right and left hand side with Caden Jackson, Nathaniel Mendes Lang, and obviously Wilson also, and how vulnerable they can be on the counter attack when the opportunities presented themselves. But I mean, what do you think, and how do you think Derby played overall yesterday in terms of how we pitted up against a very, as Jack said, a unique Hull side?
I think we look overall. I think it's probably fair to say that was a very mid-table-ish performance from us. I just think that we didn't do enough to sort of penetrate what were the weaknesses, especially them playing a high line. I thought maybe we could exploit that a bit more. I mean, when they run forward for corners, you've never seen that before, but we weren't good enough to sort of exploit that either. So I think it was an average performance. I think we could have done better. I feel like a broken record when I say this, but I just do think that we can maybe be more on the front foot this season. I just don't think we should fear teams the way we do or we have done so far this season. I just think that maybe if we could be on the front foot a bit more, I think we can really get some results this year. But in terms of yesterday, I just thought it was a very average performance. I didn't think we did anything special. If anything, if I'm being really highly critical, I think maybe we were lucky to get the point in the end. I just think that maybe Hull had a bit more onus to go forward than we did. However, saying that, it's a good point overall against a fairly decent side. So maybe when we look back at the end of the season, we'll say it's a decent point. I just do think that maybe we could have done a bit more to get all 3 points yesterday.
Yeah, it's kind of that fine line of whether it's a point gained or a couple of points dropped. I mean, you kind of want to win your home games if you can and get draws away. But like you said there, it was a very, very unique game, very, very slow in build-up. Hull very much like to play out from the back from their goalkeeper and draw those strikers in and kind of get you away from the players that you're trying to mark up in, that you've probably set up in training, and then go and build up from there. But Jack, I mean, we started on the back foot a little bit with a very kind of out of the blue goal. It was a very, very good finish. Maybe Zetterstrom could have got there. I saw on Twitter some people saying he could have got there. I thought it was a very, very good finish in my opinion. But yeah, it kind of came out of the blue and kind of just put everyone on the back foot a little bit. Within the stadium, again, everyone was not expecting it as much as they did have the ball. There wasn't many chances created from either side in that period of time. But yeah, what did you think of the finish and obviously how we reacted after that?
I think the goal led from us just slowly cave into the pressure because it was an onslaught from half time up until their goal, and you could see us getting deeper and the press was getting slower and we was just sort of blocking. And critically, I think it's gone through legs for the finish. I think looking back, it's gone through somebody's legs, and it's always difficult to save through legs, as we seen at Oxford on Tuesday night. So it was, I feel harsh if you say Zetterstrom probably could have saved it, because I don't think many goalkeepers are going to get down that low that quickly. But the reaction after the goal was, I mean, why didn't we do that from minute one is beyond me, because we started actually causing them some trouble. The press started to work. We started making them play a bit longer, which obviously suited us because we were far superior in terms of height and strength. And that, again, that's where the goal comes from, is a set play. So Derby County set piece FC.
Yeah, we'll get on to Dajaune Brown's equaliser in a little while. But Vic, I mean, Jack's mentioned there, it seemed very, very similar to the Oxford game midweek, kind of polar opposites in reaction post going 1-0 down, and then we seem to come to life. I mean, is this something we're going to see quite often this season, where we're going to be put maybe one peg back and then the team are going to come alive and kind of go at it, rather than maybe getting on the front foot a bit early than maybe what we want?
I hope not, because I just think it's a detriment to the side that we do have. I mean, I think looking at the squad on paper, I think we do have a very good side. There's a few technically good players there. Attacking wise, I think we're pretty decent. Defensively, we know we're solid. Especially at home. I just think that maybe if we can start playing on the front foot a bit more, being a bit more aggressive, just literally be more forward thinking, I think if we believe in ourselves a bit more, I think we'll achieve a lot more this season. The problem is if a half decent side, such as like the top of the leagues, like your Leeds and your Burnleys, if they start to go a goal up, it's very difficult to sort of try and get back into the game. So I don't want us to be in that sort of position. I think we just need to play with a bit more bravery. I mean, I know we're 12th in the table, and everyone will say that mid-table is probably what we're aiming for. And yeah, true, right and truly so. I think we deserve where we are at the minute in terms of our performances. But if I'm being honest, I just don't think the Championship in terms of quality has been as good as we were worried about. I just think that maybe if we play a bit more adventurous, be a bit more spontaneous, and just be a bit more brave, I just honestly think we can achieve the good things this year. I think top half isn't out of our reach, if I'm honest. I think with the players we've got, the squad we've got, the players we have, the way we play as well. I know sometimes it's a bit pragmatic, but I think we've got the players at our disposal. I think we can start putting round pegs and round holes. We can take the games to teams. I just want us to, well, first of all, score the first goal. It'd be nice to us to see us score a goal first, and then sort of go and kill the game off. Because we've seen when we do get the first goal, we don't really tend to lose. To be honest, I think if at worst we get a draw, if not all 3 points. So I just do think that we need to be a bit more brave. I don't want us to wait until the other team has scored for us to kick into life, because it worked in League One. We could get away with it in that division, but in the Championship, it's a lot more ruthless. So I just honestly, if I think we can get the first goal, we'll be fine. But let's not wait until it happens. Let's go and get it ourselves.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the way we've played and the style of play we like to do, it's a very counter-attacking style of play, as we've seen. I mean, we're smack bang in the middle, 12th position, 15 points from our opening 12 games, 15 goals scored, 15 goals conceded. And Jack, we were talking about it a little bit earlier, how much set pieces are a key factor this season. I mean, I was having a look early, and we've scored 9 out of our 15 goals. 9 of them have been from set pieces, whether that's been from corners or free kicks. And that was how the equaliser came about. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit in terms of Paul Warne's substitutions, because I'm not going to lie, I was one of those where I looked at Vic and thought, I don't know what Paul Warne's doing here with who went off, but we'll talk about obviously that a little bit later. But one of those who came on was Dajaune Brown, academy product, very, very much in form over the last couple of years in the academy, and has made a couple of decent, solid performances, whether that's been off the bench in the league or in the cup. But he got his first goal and a great, great header. Unfortunately, got injured after that, but just talked about what that goal meant to him, and obviously, again, another academy product coming out of Derby County and making an impact in the Championship.
Yeah, it's some header, in fairness. I mean,
Yeah.
watching it back, I was right in front of it in the south stand, and at the time I thought, the goalkeeper's a bit out of his goal there. But when you look back at it, he's actually lobbed the goalkeeper when the goalkeeper's probably 4 yards out of his line. It's an unbelievably good header. And the celebration was perfect because obviously we had the Hull players run down to their end, and I think it was a little bit of a Uno reverse card towards them, but he clearly enjoyed it. And it's a real shame he did go off, and hopefully it is just precautionary, because he was definitely proved to a lot of people that he can play in this division and definitely hold his own against 2 relatively big, strong centre-backs. I mean, he's playing with no fear. And that's, the joy of youth is they come in and they don't really tend to feel the pressure, because if it goes wrong, it doesn't really matter. But it seems to me he's just taken it and gone, right, this is my game. I'm going to get us back in it. And it is just a shame he went off, because could we have had another moment late on? I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, it's a real shame, Vic, and we were talking about it at the game, about that strength and depth behind Jerry Yates, because Jerry Yates does so much off the ball work, and Dajaune Brown kind of does the same thing with similar traits with his pace and tenacity as well as his finishing. But behind Jerry Yates, we're looking at it going, where's that depth, and where's the goals going to come from? And me and Jack were talking about just before we went live, James Collins at the moment is dropped down in that pecking order, even behind Dajaune Brown now. But hopefully that injury isn't going to be anything that sets him back, and it's just precautionary, as Jack mentioned. But do we see Dajaune Brown being that maybe pivotal person behind Jerry Yates? So, for instance, even starting in some cases.
I mean, he's done well to put his name about, hasn't he? I mean, it was a fantastic goal by Dajaune. I'm really pleased for him. I think it's really nice to see an academy product get their first senior goal for Derby. And I think what surprised me the most was his physicality and how good he is actually in the air. I mean, I didn't expect him to be as good as he was in the end. It's by no means feat a great header. It's not easy to achieve, but he'll give Yates a run for his money. I do love Jerry Yates. I think he works incredibly hard for the side, and a lot of his work does go unnoticed. But I think in the back of his mind, he's going to think about his goal tally and think to himself, the longer I keep going without a goal, if I'm not getting the run of games with the run of goals here, is my position sort of at threat? And you've got almost a ready-made replacement in Dajaune Brown. I think that loan to Gateshead probably did his career the world of wonders, because he's looked a completely different player since he's come back. Paul Warne did say in his post-match yesterday that it's not an injury. I think he's just come off to get the standing ovation. So if we take that as gospel, then he'll be back in for the next game. But he's putting his name about there. It's nice to see that we do have a different option, because I think if we did think about just having Jerry Yates and James Collins up top, I think we might struggle this year, especially if something did happen to Jerry Yates, because the work he puts in for this team is second to none, and I just don't think it'd be replicated with James Collins. But with Dajaune Brown, you've got another option there. He's young, he's brave, he's fearless, and I think sometimes you need a bit of that in the Championship, a player that just goes in without any fear, and just plays his game. And sometimes it's beautiful to see when you see such a young player who's got all that skill, all that ability to just play his game and not worry about things. So he's got a goal in I believe it's his second appearance in the league this season for Derby. So hopefully his good form can continue. But I'd like to see him challenge Jerry Yates up top. But at least we know we've got a solid second option there should anything happen to Yates.
Yeah, I thought you were going to get a longer mate continue in there, Vic. But
not quite. We're still building up towards that. Yeah.
Well, Jim in the comments has put it. He's mentioned about he felt we were lucky to draw. Brown and CBT were exactly what he think we needed, and he was happy for Brown, and he did put a long mate continue in there for you, Vic. Early. David Clarkson, Ibu ever gets injured long term, we're in deep doo-doo. I think you're right there, David. I think we'll talk about it a little bit later in terms of that strength in depth in central midfield. But yeah, talking about their substitutions, Jack. I mean, when they came on, I looked at Vic and as I mentioned earlier, and kind of went with more, not with who was coming on, but who was coming off. Yeah, I thought Harness would be one of those who would come off. I thought maybe Fozzie, maybe for Callum Elder, something on those lines. But he went down the route of Nathaniel Mendes Lang coming off, and Caden Jackson on. Harness stayed on, and Kenzo Halmine came off, and it did throw a few fans in our section. Vic and Jack, what did you make of those substitutions? Obviously, evidently, I mean, Dajaune Brown actually it came off, so it's a masterstroke on Paul Warren's part. But yeah, what did you think about those?
It was bizarre at the time because you're chasing the game and you bring, arguably the most creative of the centre midfielders off for Ben Osborne. And by the way, that's no slight because he was outstanding when he came on. I would just get that in early. He was arguably the man to change the game. And then obviously the captain coming off, which is, that doesn't usually happen. And we've seen that a lot with Paul Warren, that Mendes will probably play a bit jaded and fatigued at times. And, maybe it's a good thing for Mendes with all the football he's playing and all the time zone hopping he's doing. It might give him that little bit of respite. And Blackett-Taylor, for me, should have started. I've been very impressed with him. He was unlucky not to get a penalty at Millwall. He was unlucky at Oxford as well. There was another bit of a half claim where he was being dragged down. And for me, he just squares people and he wants to beat his man every single time. There's not a thought of backwards in him. He wants to get at the fullback. And again, championship football, that's what we want to see. We want to see us more flair players on the pitch. And, but credit to Paul Warren, he got it right. And, all our groans of Kenzo and Yates coming off was clearly part of the master plan because Osborne crosses it. Dajaune decides I'm going to win this header and we're 1-1, and arguably we look like the better side towards them last, was it 7 minutes? Then it just went to a little bit of, survival mode with Nat Phillips and who else came on? I can't remember who the sub was at that time.
Liam Thompson came on.
Liam Thompson, of course. Yeah, he came on to shore the game out, which we obviously did. And it's a shame that Dage had to come off because we did have to change that front line. And Jackson isn't quite the presence of a Yates or a Dage. He's more of a runner, not so much of as a bully as the other two.
Yeah, and Vic, we mentioned even at the game about how Jackson obviously maintained his position on the pitch, and Nathaniel Mendes Lang came off, and a few people after on the social media mentioned, is he a bit hard done by, or is it obviously tactically planned with his trip to with Guatemala and with the legs? Obviously, he started midweek against Oxford, and maybe it was pre-planned and he was going to come off whatever happened. But does Nathaniel Mendes Lang have a right to feel hard done by? Obviously, he played on the left a lot of the time, and obviously mentioned in apparently to Paul Warren that he wants to play on the right, and that's where he thinks he's best. And obviously, I think most fans would probably agree with him on that. But does he feel hard done by with being taken off and Jackson maintaining his position on that wide and right hand side?
In my opinion, yes. I've said it from the start of the season. I just think that if you want to get the best out of Mendes Lang, you need to play him in his natural position, which is on the right side. In terms of Caden Jackson, I'll be brutally honest, and I know I'm probably going to annoy a few people online now. I just don't see the player that everybody else sees in him. I think Caden Jackson is a good impact player, maybe someone to bring on with about 20, 30 minutes to go. I just don't think he's the sort of player that we need when we're trying to chase games and get points on the board. I think he's sort of the player you'd like to send on if you're maybe protecting a 1-0 lead or you're just looking for that injection of pace. I just think that if you put Mendes Lang on the right, You get the best out of him. You put maybe Corey Blackett-Taylor on the left and let him play. Because one thing I noticed that Jackson doesn't do that the other two do is sort of take his player on. It's almost as if Jackson doesn't sort of back himself. And I think you and me were saying this yesterday, Callum, about he seems a bit reserved and maybe not too confident to take his player on. And I think it's come at a detriment to the side because I think Mendes is not the same player on the left as he is on the right. In my opinion, I'd like to see Mendes back on the right. I'd like to see Jackson maybe get a rest, if I'm being brutally honest, and let Corey Blackett-Taylor and Mendes Lang play together. As captain, I do think he should feel hard done by. He's already said in his post-match before that he does want to play on the right-hand side and not on the left. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I think they're probably looking at the betterment of the team and what they can do for the team, and I think Mendes will say that himself. But for me, I just don't see how Jackson's impact in the side could be any better than what we've got in Mendes and Corey Blackett-Taylor. I know I'm going to annoy people, so please come for me in the comments.
I think it's a fair point, in fairness. I think it's very fair.
Yeah, Jack, I'll throw it open to the room. Jack, that wide hand side is up for debate. I mean, both wide hand areas are up for debate, really. I mean, what's your thoughts on it?
I think the right hand side issue is more if you play Wilson and Mendes, it's very aggressive. It is like ultra aggressive. And if Nyambe, obviously, it's such a shame he's out for the period of time he's going to be, because I feel like in the Championship, Ryan Nyambe might be one of the best one-on-one defenders in the division. And losing that, I mean, the guy, I've never seen the guy get run past. He is a freak of a human. I've had the joy of seeing him up close, and he is wide. Like, getting around him as a winger is tough, and it doesn't get much change. And I feel like Wilson, as amazing he is going forward, he really did struggle yesterday. He got pinned a little bit, and he struggled to go on some of his runaway runs where he kind of goes flying down, and no one really knows where he's going to end up. And I feel like having Mendes and Wilson could cause a little bit of a, overload at times and leave us a little bit exploited. But if it's going to get the most out of Mendes, we're going to have to try and sort a way, whether that's, a midfielder not going as high and sort of doing that half cover. And again, Ibu Adams can do that. We've seen that countless times with his sweeping up and tidying up of play. And yeah, it then throws into debate of how does that midfield look, because if you change in the way Ibu's playing at the moment, who's a bit more of a box to box, you've got to sit a little bit. So I see Jake put, does Osborne come in? For me, he does. And you move Kenzo higher, because I just feel like that is where you're going to get the most out of Kenzo Haldmine. And linking that right hand side together, stitching it all up with the two bombing right wingers would be, something to watch.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, in my opinion, I think other positions and other personnel kind of dictate who you put out in those wide hand areas. I think fullback areas is another one. Fozzie kind of is a more defensive player, like Vic said, with Wilson on the right is very right hand side heavy. So then that will then obviously dictate where you go. I mean, as I say, Jim mentioned CBT being exactly what he needed. He's obviously a fan of him. We've got Chris in the comments, Jamie in the comments, even there, and Adam with saying it's kind of a point gained in his opinion. Do we think that in terms of the central midfielders now, we talked about how Ibu at the moment is that Ozo replacement? I think naturally he has to be, but I think Vic, in the way that we like to play, in the way that Paul Warren likes to play, that midfield is so pivotal. And I think that we're at a point now where I think we're at kind of ends meet in terms of that midfield personnel and what we've got. If anything happens to Ibu, I think we're bang in trouble, but in the nicest way possible. But I think with Ibu and what he does, me and Jack mentioned just before you joined us, Vic, I think he's carrying a knock and playing through something. He doesn't look 100%. And obviously now with Ozo not coming back until the end of the international break, is Ibu and Ibu's fitness one to monitor?
I think so, but at the same time, it's like you said, if we were looking at the midfield dynamic, if we don't have Ibu in there, there's nobody else that we've got in the side that can sort of do his role. I mean, we had Ozo who could do it. He's injured. If Ibu is playing with a knock, fair play to him. And I think we said this yesterday, about 10 minutes in, he was limping around, and we thought we did start to worry. The problem is we don't have anybody to back up that. I mean, if you've got a midfield three of Osborne, Kenzo, and then you're looking at Thompson, it's very lightweight, and that midfield three will get run.
That is not a poor war midfield. Not a poor war midfield at all.
Exactly. And then you're starting to worry. So I think for as long as we can protect DB, but I think we can't risk not playing him either. I just think that if we're looking at survival being the aim this year, he's pivotal to that midfield three until Ozo gets back. I think we've probably got another 3 games, I think, until the next international break. If Ibu can just carry us through till then, put those performances in, and just allow your Kenzos, your Osbornes, potentially even if Tom was back in the fold, those three to play their game, just help him out a bit more. I won't be surprised if we start seeing maybe 2 holding midfielders rather than 2 number 8s playing. I think we're going to look to maybe to protect our sort of defence at the minute. I mean, I've heard suggestions of maybe Nat Phillips going into the midfield. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but yeah, I just think we need to wrap Ibu up in cotton wool, but let him play as well, because I think he's pivotal to what we're going to do going forward. And at least until Ozo's back, we can't afford to drop any more points. I mean, some of the games we're looking at now, your Stokes, your Plymouth, the winnable games here. I think we can get points out of these. So you want to put your strongest team out there. And if Ibu's a part of that, let's put him in, even if he is playing with a knock.
Yeah, and I think keeping Ibu safe, I think he needs to keep himself safe. The trouble is he dives into challenges and puts his body on the line. That's what Ibu Adams is. And I think that he will probably just need protection of the rest of the team. I think you're right there. I think he needs that midfield partner just to give him a bit of stability, especially going into the next few games while we wait on David Ozo. But Jack, I'm seeing a couple of people mentioning Nat Phillips, his name, and Jim's put it. We've had Chris mention it and a few others. And he's a player that we've kind of looked at, and he was kind of coming ahead of Sonny Bradley now. He's that person that we bring on to make a 3 at the back and kind of see out results. But do you see him playing a part over the next 2 or 3 games to maybe switch up that midfield just to give players rest and stuff like that? Because he's a player on loan from Liverpool. He won't want to come here and just be sat on the bench, will he?
No, and I think there was a comment earlier about the 3-5-2 with Brown and Yates. That is certainly a possibility, especially with fullback personnel now. Obviously, no Ryan Nyambi and, Joe Ward. I think he's picked up another knock, which is, it's just a shame how his Derby career hasn't really hit any kind of heights apart from Portsmouth away. But yeah, the 3-5-2 is something I've always thought Paul Warne wanted. He always played 3-5-2 wherever he'd been. Like at Rotherham, it was a 3-5-2 all the time, and he came in and wanted that 3-5-2, and we didn't have the players, and he always said he was recruiting for it, but we've never really, bar a bit of a run in League One, we've never really settled in a 3, and whether that is to do with, I feel like it kind of exposes Cash's weakness in a lot, like this pace along the sides. He struggles a little bit, and obviously the same with Nelson. They're both rock hard centre halves, and with the running aspect, if you've got a fast winger up against a Cashin or a Nelson, fair play, they do well, but consistently are they going to be able to handle that? And then obviously, Nat Phillips is a player with some good pedigree behind him. He definitely made the name for himself at Liverpool when they had all them, they had a freakish run of injuries at the back. And I can vaguely remember him playing at centre-back with Jordan Henderson. That was the extent. And he was a real vital part of that Liverpool team who managed to keep getting themselves into the Champions League. But I'm not sure. And I've seen a few fans online say, would you sign him? And personally, for the wage demands and what we've seen, it's probably a no at the moment. But a lot can change, and we had this with Sonny Bradley that he wasn't in the team. There was rumours why he wasn't happy and he wanted to go, and he finished the season with some vital goals that took us into the Championship. So a lot can change in a few months.
I think the only way that, for me, that Phillips does come into the side is if we play a three at the back. I can't see.
Yeah.
I think Nelson was maybe on that cusp of maybe being dropped, and that's only just because of the last couple of appearances. But I thought Cashin was absolutely outstanding yesterday,
100%.
and I think that, like, as Jim and Chris have mentioned in the comments, 3-5-2 is the only way I can see him coming in, unless one of those two players get injured. But Vic, I mean, you can't really drop that partnership at the moment. It's still being consistent, even in the Championship now. And yes, Nelson's been dodgy over the last few games, but he's still been one of our mainstays. And that back four is so stable at the moment, even with the Niambe injury. But do you think that Phillips will want to stick around in January? Will he go back to Liverpool and go, I'm not getting anything here at the moment?
I think he will. I mean, I just think he has to be patient. I think he will get his chance. It's just a matter of when. I mean, I was probably one of the people that was maybe saying that Nelson maybe needed to be dropped. But I think in hindsight, looking back, I think it's probably the right decision to keep him in. And that centre-back pairing has been a huge success for us, especially in the last couple of years, and we're looking to bring that into this season as well. They haven't really put too much wrong, in my opinion. Yes, they've made mistakes here and there, but if you look at how we've been defensively, we're not getting smashed by teams. Do you know what I mean? We've only conceded one, maybe two goals here and there. Defensively, we are quite solid, and it's probably one of our key strengths. So I think Nat Phillips will get his chance. Potentially maybe in a three. It just depends on the personnel we have available. I mean, with the injuries racking up, it's looking like we might be heading that way. I think even going back to the 3-5-2 debate that you guys are having, and I'll open this up to the rest of you as well. The problem with the 3-5-2 is I think we end up losing our wingers in the sense of there's no place for Mendes Lang, there's no place for CBT. So you're looking at playing with your fullback. So you've got players like Kane Wilson and you've got Callum there who can play as those bombarding fullbacks up and down. Would you guys like to see that 3-5-2? And if you were to shoehorn Mendes Lang or CBT in, where would you put them?
I think that 3-5-2 is suitable against certain teams in this division. I think you mentioned we've got too many players that are suited to that 4-2-3-1 that we play, and I think if we kind of try and shoehorn them into a 3-5-2, I think Caden Jackson isn't not in a two up top for me. I think he's an out wide player. I think he stated that when he first joined. I think if you're going to do a two up top, you're going to do a Yates and Dajaune Brown maybe. I think I've seen that in a couple of the comments, but I'm of the opinion we stick with what we're currently consistent with. But I think there is a realm to look at it depending on who we play if we go up against a strong opposition. I don't know about your thoughts, Jack.
I think when we was trying to play it last season, wasn't it Mendes and Collins as the two nines?
Yeah.
And you get varying success with Mendes Lang through the middle. I just think he's a player you need to keep one-on-one. And when you play centrally, you're never really one-on-one with anybody. So, yeah, like I said earlier, it's an awkward one when Paul Warne is a 3-5-2 man, but his recruitment hasn't looked particularly 3-5-2 to me. It does seem like he's more settling with his 4-2-3-1. And, you know, if you're going to play 3-5-2, you don't make the signings of Corey Blackett-Taylor and Caden Jackson because they are two out-and-out wingers. And I think Charlton fans said about Blackett-Taylor, if you play him wing back, it is just a waste because he is not interested in defending at all. So, yeah, for me, I think if we're going to play that way, we possibly need another left wing back because I think Osborne played there against Sunderland, and you don't really get the full Ben Osborne experience because he is like his energy in abundance, and he is kind of like in the Bryson mold of a footballer without the goals. He runs around, he kicks people, he'll try and win the ball back. He's very full-blooded and committed. And yeah, I just think whichever way we play that 3-5-2, whether it's with a 10 or a sitting midfielder, it just wouldn't work. I just don't think long-term it will. And as Vic said, it could work in different situations when you're playing against possibly another three, it could work. But for me, it just isn't the long-term answer.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, Ryan Jono's put 4-3-3 at home, 3-5-2 away, in his opinion, and I wouldn't be massively against that, but I think it depends on who we go up against. And one of those who we're going up against this weekend is Stoke. Early kickoff. They have got an FA Cup game away at Southampton on Tuesday, so luckily we haven't got so we've got a full week preparation, and that would be interesting to keep an eye on that result really, and how they play and if they go full strength, because it'd be a quick turnaround. But before we get into score predictions, and obviously I like to see score predictions in the comments, and we'll read them out at the end, but and I'll ask you guys in a moment. But Jack, do we see a major change in personnel formation going away to Stoke? I mean, they're in a bit of an odd bit of form. They've just recently come to a defeat against Sheffield United, and obviously we saw how that went when we went there. But do you make many changes going into that game? And if so, what do you do?
I think the issue is who changes at the moment, because we're very light again. Just as we started getting the full selection available, you've had a couple of knocks and niggles, and they're keeping people away, and it just kind of leaves you in a situation where even if we wanted to make a change, is there a better change to make? For me, I think, as we said earlier, Blackett-Taylor comes in. I just think he is the kind of player who can unlock a game when there isn't really a key to unlock it. And if that means we have to put Mendes on the same side as Wilson, he'll find a way. I think Paul Warne gets a lot of stick tactically, but he's a very smart football guy. He does a lot of due diligence on teams, and he also finds a way to win in a weird way. Paul Warne's teams, especially for us, of what I've seen, he doesn't give away too many chances, and that was the key again yesterday. I mean, Hull's goal came from a 25-yard screamer, but other than that, did Jacob have to make a real save? And that for me is Derby's biggest strength. But again, I think personnel probably stays the same. For me, it's Harness possibly out for Osborne. I think Osborne was, again, really good when he came on. And let's get Kenzo up that pitch, because you've seen he's a box buster. He'll get in there. He scored the goal against Cardiff. Was it Cardiff or was it? It was Cardiff, wasn't it? He scored, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
He's a box buster, and he'll get in there and make the finishes. And behind that, you've got Osborne and Adams, who have got energy personified. So I just think that could be the change again with Blackett out on the left. And again, the left back conundrum, I think we keep Forsyth. For me, he was man of the match yesterday. I think he was outstanding up against a very tricky customer. I can't remember the guy's name, but every time he got the ball, I'm thinking, oh my God, don't run at him. But Forsyth was really good. Between him and Cashin, that left-hand side was locked down, and it showed. It was a good performance.
I think to add to that Forsyth argument as well, I think you need to keep him in the side, just purely because if you got Wilson on the right, it's the same conundrum we had with Niambe on the right and Aldo on the left. I think you need to have almost like a back three safety net. The Forsyth provides that. So I'd agree. I don't think there's much changes in that. I think if anyone, take Harness out. I didn't think he was that great yesterday. Showed a couple of good things here and there, but for me, I think Osborne come on, change again completely, put us in the ascendancy. So I think he deserves his spot in the side. Those are probably the only couple of changes I'd make, is maybe take Harness and Jackson out and bring in Corey Blackett-Taylor on the left, put Mendes on the right in his rightful position, and let Osborne run free in the middle. And hopefully we can see the best of Kenzo moving forward as well.
Vic Singh sticking with Corey Blackett-Taylor. Are you feeling all right there, mate?
Do you know what it is? The options, if you think about it, like I said already, I'm not that impressed with Jackson. And I think I'm desperate to just get Mendes on the right, just because I think he needs to be in his natural position. If we want to see the best of him, we need to put him there. And I think Corey Blackett-Taylor at the minute is probably the only player that can play on the left. Otherwise, we're doing square pegs, round holes again. Otherwise, we're going to end up maybe playing someone like Liam Thompson on left wing. Do you know what I mean? If we could see something wacky like that. And in my opinion, I think Blackett-Taylor's probably needs to show that he can do something now. And Stoke away is probably the best place for him, because they're struggling as well. He's very direct. All he has to do is take his player on. And he's going to cut inside. If he could just get one of his shots off and on goal, and next thing you know, his confidence is through the roof. I thought maybe he'd have kicked on after the last goal he scored. I can't remember who it was against now. Was it Norwich?
Norwich.
I thought thought he might have kicked on from there, but I think maybe chances have been restricted as such. it's Corey Blackett Taylor's shirt to lose now, so hopefully he can shine. But I just really want to see Mendes Lang. That's mainly the bulk of my argument there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think say the most we can get out of Mendes Lang, the better. I mean, a few score predictions in the comments. Got Ryan Jono 1-1 again. Got Jim with a 2-1 to Stoke. Oh no, it's a 2-1 win to Derby. He's kind of done it the wrong way around there. But Nathaniel Mendes Lang and Corey Blackett Taylor, his scorers. We've got a 2-0 Derby from Chris. Set a strong clean sheet. Kenzo and Brown to score. We've got 1-0 from Simon to Derby. Nathaniel Mendes Lang. I mean, Jack, I'll ask yourself. I mean, Stoke away, 12:30 kickoff. Quite an in and out form of team, similar to ourselves. It's quite we're both in that kind of middle pack. But what's your score prediction for next week?
It's never really a happy hunting ground, is it, Stoke? It's never really a place. I think bar the Kazim Richards day where I think we won 2-1, didn't we? And Kazim scored late. Yeah, there was a day and a half, but I don't know. We've got to keep going with. We've got this away win's going to come eventually. Is it going to be this weekend? I hope so. I'll go with 2-0. I think we'll score the second late on after weathering a bit of a Stoke storm, which is normally true for the Britannia. So 2-0 Derby. We'll go Jerry Yates and second goal. Let's go rogue. We'll go Ben Osborne to finally score his first Derby County goal. Jerry
Yates and Ben Osborne. Vic, obviously, I don't think you're going to Stoke. I think it's just Adam from. I think it's. Are you going? We've got 3, I think. Because I think Jake's also going. But what would you like to see? What's your score prediction for when you go there, mate?
I think it's going to be quite a cagey game. I just think both teams.
Another one.
Yeah, I know. It's one of them with us. I think because we're still waiting for that first away win. I think that's why we sort of set up not to lose rather than go all out for the win. I just think it's going to be cagey. I think they're going to be quite nervous. I think we will be in parts of the game. I just think we'll get a 1-0 win though. I just think the duck is finally going to be broken. I think we're going to get the monkey off our back, and I think we're going to get an Osborne winner. I think it's about time. We need a Derby boy to get the winner for us and get that first away win. So an Osborne winner. Let's say a free kick. I don't know, from about 25 yards. He just pings it in. But yeah, we're going to come back with all 3 points. Yeah, I'm confident of it. We're going to break this duck finally.
I'm not quite as confident. I don't think we'll lose. I think, I mean, they're the draw specialists in the last 4 games. They've got 0-0, 1-1, a 2-2.
I think we are as well with the 3-1.
We were literally just about to say, I think it's just destined for a 5-0 win or something stupid. But I think, no, I'm going to go 1-1. I do think it's going to be cagey. Yeah, again, another one. But I think... I would like to see Corey Blackett Taylor, but no, I think it's going to be another set piece. I'm going to go Erin Cashin to score a header. I think it'll be 1-1. I think he'll score just in front of the away fans. I think we'll be 1-0 down and come back and fight back another draw and going into really an opportunity to get a few points on the board. I mean, our fixture list is coming up, and you're looking at it going, we could see some good opportunities. I mean, Coventry away, I think they're a team to be got at. So we'll be very interested to see that. And then Plymouth at home. So some very, very winnable games. But it's been an absolute pleasure, boys. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like. If you didn't and you want Jake back, put it in the comments. But I will be putting in an application to try and take this full time. If you did enjoy, please do subscribe. And you can come and watch us every single week, 7 p.m. on a Sunday. And obviously, midweek, there will be a preview going out for Stoke. I think that will be going out, I believe, on Wednesday, but I'm not sure who's on that one, but keep an eye out for that. Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out next Saturday. Hopefully get our first away win, as Jack mentioned. But if you did enjoy, take care, and that's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
The Rams are coming back with 3 points. Goodbye from me.
All the best, guys, and take care. Have a good Sunday.